It's my great pleasure and honor to introduce to our listeners today Patrick McLoughlin, better known as PaddyMac. And PaddyMac, I'm really, really looking forward to this conversation today. Thanks for spending some time with us.
Sure thing, John. Happy to be here.
Hey, brother. So before we get started, tell us a little bit how did you first come to force management?
Well, Brian Walsh. As many of you know, I spent my career at Xerox Corporation and happened to work with Brian and be around Brian for many years. That would be another podcast telling Brian Walsh stories. But Brian had reached out to me about 5 years ago, and he knew that I was at a point in my career where I was looking to make some decisions and some moves. And he said, "Hey, we think you'd be a great fit. Why don't you come in and meet with John and meet with the team and Grant and Dave and the rest of the organization." And you know what? When I came into Force, I felt the same type of family and atmosphere that I had multiple times in my career. Entire team focused on one problem, all built on working together. And I was like, wow, I'm not a big person into change. So leaving Xerox was a very difficult decision. I can tell you, they'll have to pull me out kicking and screaming to get me to leave Force Management now. But that's why I ended up here at Force. And
yeah, I remember that first meeting that we had, that you and I had. I just looked at you and I said, this person is going to be perfect at facilitation for force management. So tell us a little bit about some of the career jobs that you had at Xerox that kind of got you to this point with your great experience.
Yeah, so the big thing for me, John, was even just getting into sales to begin with, right? And I when I graduated from college, it was like, for me, it was big on like, what am I going to do? I probably wasn't as driven and focused as I was later on in my career, probably to the dismay of my parents. But a friend of my parents had me take the Myers-Briggs test, and it came back that I should look to do sales. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do, knowing I didn't want to work behind a desk. So I started out working for a sales agency of Xerox Corporation, and I had zip codes. I cold called every day. I mean, I did that for a number of years, and then eventually came along to Xerox Corporation as an account manager, and then just things naturally pivoted to sales management, to a variety of different roles. I think people always wonder why I spent 25 years at Xerox, and the reason is because I had new challenges and I worked with great people. I think everything that we do in companies is the people that we do it with. And I just think about the people that influenced my career and helped develop me into the salesperson I was that first day that I walked into Apex Communications, and that like last day that I left as a vice president in the Southeast United States was pretty impactful.
Yeah, it was I think most of the listeners know I spent time at Xerox as well. And the company is such a great backdrop for people like you and I, because of the great experiences. Like back in the day, they were the sales training company. Yeah. And the training that we received there, I like to tell people I got my undergraduate in sales at Xerox, and I got my MBA or my doctorate in sales from PTC. But Xerox was a legit great culture, great experiences, great people, and they did such a great job preparing us for a sales career. So let's talk about that a little bit, dude. Like I'm sure that you thinking back on your sales career, one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, and I don't mean to catch you off guard on this, but like, the highs and lows, or what is the worst mistake you ever made in a sales job?
Oh, I probably could go on and on about deals and things that I did strategically or tactically wrong. That's a good question. My biggest mistake, John, I stayed in sales jobs too long. I got too comfortable. I got too focused on the short-term gratification, meaning that I had worked on deals, developed a territory, and then someone came along and said, "Hey, Patty, we'd like to promote you and move you into a new position." And I said, "Well, why do I want to do that? I've cultivated this farm. Now I want to reap the rewards of what I've done in it." And as much as my loyalty and my being comfortable where I am, I think it was detrimental in my skill set development. I think people were coming to me looking for me to develop skill sets, and I did. I'm not saying I missed out, but maybe I did. Maybe I could have done more things if I had taken on more responsibility earlier. So looking back on it, I probably would say I probably should have looked at the long-term goals a little bit more carefully versus reacting to the short-term successes that I was focused on.
That's so relevant, and I think I bet you that happens to a lot of our listeners. I suffered from the same thing in the sense that it was always really hard for me. Like, you'd build a team or you get a great territory, and they'd move you, and it was kind of like, I just learned how to play a position, and now I want to become an all pro.
Exactly.
I want to get the accolades, and it's like first you learn how to swim, and then you're feeling comfortable in the pool, and the next day your brothers grab you and they throw you in the deep end and says, now, okay, it's time to learn how to swim in the deep end. And I didn't even get to enjoy the sunshine in the kiddie pool or what have
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
That's interesting. I think that just as you go, what kind of advice would you give to the listeners, as the people that are in that they're in that situation right now? They're just looking at it and they go, how do I know when it's the right time to move?
Yeah. So I guess the thing is someone once said to me that when a pilot gets in a plane, they're always looking for that runway. They're always looking for where they're going to go in case something happens. So I'm not trying to take it from a bad perspective. I guess my biggest thing was I remember when I became a sales manager, I didn't think I could do it. I remember when I became a VP, I didn't think I could do it. I remember when I came to force management and as a facilitator, I was more scared my first facilitation than I was my first sales call. So, and the advice that I got and why I decided to come to force management was I was weighing a job from another technology company and force management. You probably don't know that, but now you do. And I was on a golf course in Florida at the TPC at Sawgrass, and an executive was with a friend of mine. It was a big executive in a major bank. I told him the two options. He says, "What's the difference?" I said, "Well, the other job I can stroll into and do. This job scares me to death." And he says, "Take the job that scares you to death because it'll keep you on edge." So I would say to people all the time, if you're complacent, if you can do it, if you don't have an element of fear that's driving you, or you're learning, that's where you want to be going to, because then it makes it more fun, because then when you accomplish things, God, the rewards are great. Like, I love what we do on a daily basis.
Yeah, dude, that's such a great point. I think the neuroscience around that would say that when you're challenged, it actually creates energy for you. And when
Yeah.
you're not challenged, and it's not that people are trying to be complacent out there. It's just like, if you can get up in the morning and do your job with your eyes closed, but the caveat is you don't get energy from it, then that's a bad spot to be in. And what I love when I see you every day, or when I wish I could see you every day. Hopefully, post-pandemic times, we can get back to seeing each other
Yeah,
every day. But like you always say to me, I can't believe that they pay me to do this job. And
absolutely.
what that always tells me about you is that you are getting energy from the job. The job is not taking your energy.
Yeah,
So
that's you
yeah,
took my story and put it into a learning event for the people that are listening. So thanks for doing that. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. I think
That's
it's I
it.
think it's great advice, because I think people are, if you're sitting out there right now and you're listening, and like the company, just when you start to get comfortable and you start, okay, now I'm going to really make my money and I get to play my position and have a great year, and they pull you, number one, think about the company who's pulling you out of that job, where they haven't realized the benefits of you in that job. And that should really tell you like their thought process. If they think you can do the next job, sometimes why don't we think we can do the next job? So it's a really good kind of contemplation. Those are good problems to have.
Absolutely.
So I've really been looking forward to this question. What's the funniest thing that's happened on a sales call?
Oh gosh. So Rachel told me that you were going to ask me that question because she wanted to give me some time to prepare. And I was in the car and I was thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And then one story popped in my mind, and I can't top it, so I'm going to tell it. I was probably my third year of sales. I had first year, I made plans. Second year, I made President's Club. Things are going really good. Third year, I'm just clicking. I'm like, I got this down. And I got involved in a pretty large, high volume, mid volume opportunity with a publishing company outside of Washington, DC. And back in the day at Xerox, we had sales specialists that handled certain product lines that would support us on those sales calls and those opportunities. They were experts in the competition, the marketplace, the functions, features, and productivity of the devices we were selling. So his name was Art Crisafulli, because I'm going to make Art listen to this podcast. So Art says, hey, I'll just meet you in Maryland at the account. And I said, okay, great. So we show up at the account and we're doing our pre-call plan in the parking lot. And he says, show me the proposal. We get to the product, we get to the pricing and the benefits page for the business outcomes we were selling. And he's looking for his glasses. He can't find his glasses. So he says, let me see. He goes, I can't read this. And he's like, listen, you got to do it. Because when you get to these things, you got to hammer home the required capability, the business outcome. This was a competitive account. You got to just drive this thing home. This is a 20+ year veteran that had 80% of his career was President's Club. And I'm like, all right, I got it. And so we practice it. He's like, practice it. So we're practicing it, and we go into the call, and we're in a room that's probably only big enough for 2 people. And we have 3 people at a round table. And I get to the business outcomes page, and I start doing exactly like I did in the parking lot. And Art doesn't like a thing that I'm doing. So you know what he does? He reaches over and he grabs my glasses off my face, and he starts reading the proposal. Now, here's the worst part about it, John. I only have glasses on because I need them now for my age for reading and seeing the screen. But at the time, I was nearsighted. I can't see far. Well, Art was farsighted, so he couldn't see near. So the glasses were a complete mess up. So Art is now aggravated to the point that he's going to explode. And you know what he does? He reaches across the table and he grabs the glasses off the customer's face. And I'm like, I can't believe he didn't even ask permission. And he said, these don't work either, right? So the client, you know what the customer says? The customer says, fine, give me the proposal. Customer goes, I'll read the line and you tell me what you want to tell me.
Oh, good Lord. Give me the outcome. Give me the outcome.
Yeah. Now, here's the irony of it. We didn't win that deal. But to this day, it was just like, and we were all like, not to say, Art's a little older than I was, and I think the customer was a little older than Art. So it just was 3 generations of men who, and the glasses were going around the table, and I couldn't stop laughing.
That is awesome. So Art, if you're listening, let us know if you did LASIK or what happened after that. I thought you were going to tell me that you wanted to look older, so you had glasses that had no power in them or what have you when you grabbed them. No. I love that. That's a great one, dude. Hey, so tell me on that vein, thinking about, great sellers, great sales leaders that you worked with in your career, like, tell me, your memory, your best recollection of the best salesperson, the best sales leader you worked with.
Okay. So his name is Rick Gonzalez. Rick is retired now in Atlanta, Georgia. And Rick Gonzalez, Brian and I worked for Rick at one point in our career. Rick taught me that everything about selling was everything you did up front. He could scope a deal. He could attach to the biggest problems. he taught us that winning a deal was everything you did in the first 30% of the deal, how you set up your differentiation, how you set up the outcomes, how you got to high level people. I mean, Rick knew how to put a deal together. He knew how to negotiate. He knew how to create value that didn't cost us anything in negotiation. He taught me everything that I did was in the beginnings of a sales cycle, and it was all about strategy. And then the other thing that he had was he had a great sense of empathy and curiosity with customers, regardless of the level he met with. He made people feel important. I actually learned something from him that I read, which actually became a mantra of PaddyMac's. The other person that was of powerful influence to me, and I've told this many times during sales trainings, was a lady named Mary Kay. Now, you may have heard of Mary Kay Cosmetics. I never met Mary Kay, but Mary Kay had a saying, for every person you meet in your life, pretend they have a sign around their neck that says, make me feel important. If you do that, you will not only exceed in sales, but life. And Rick taught me that. And so that's something I've tried to bring to force management, both internally and externally every day. Every person that I meet, I try to make them feel like they're the most important person in the world.
I love that. I love that. And do you, thinking about the listeners that we have now with all of the, hopefully we got some good news of, coming out of pandemic, but it's been like a long year. And these Ricks, they're all around us. And,
they are.
I used to force myself to look around me and look for uncommon people. And there's a lot of people doing things that I don't want to replicate. And then there's very few, the uncommon amongst the uncommon that I wanted to, to look out for and to replicate some of their behaviors. There's an old saying, I think, that I heard while I was at Xerox. I think it says, you become in sales over time, you become a culmination of the best people that you ever worked with or worked for. And it's not that you're copying people or imitating people or not being authentic, but it's you become the manifestation of some of the great examples that people have shown to you. So hats off to Rick out there. Get him to listen to this too.
I will. I'll do that for sure. Yeah.
Hey, brother, that takes us to the another question that is, and the last question as we wrap up here. What's the best piece of sales advice that you've ever got that you don't often hear?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, and I'd like to tell it in a story, but I think that so many times we as sales professionals, and this is a profession, what we do for a living matters. We're really good at it. I've heard you say that, and it's been pounded into my ears by you for a long time, like what we do matters. And I think as sellers, as we look at our opportunities as sales opportunities, and they're more than that, they're business opportunities. It's a business opportunity for us as the vendor and also a business opportunity for the prospect. And great selling is merging those interests on both sides. And I think so many times I see sellers trying to figure out how to position their solution as a competitive advantage, negotiating, giving things away, doing things. I think that you look at every opportunity as the customer has a right to say no to you. And if your pipeline's healthy, you have a right to say no to the customer to some extent. But I think we need to look at it is that we've got to do deals that are good for us, our company, and our compensation. Then we have to make sure the deals are right for our customers from the business problems they solve. And one of the biggest lessons I had was I was chasing a law firm in Washington, D.C., and it was a big law firm. And I had a champion. I had a high-ranking champion, and they sat me down and told me exactly what I needed to win the deal. Terms and conditions that the managing partner wanted, pricing, everything it was a total package. And I came back, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it. And I met with my sales manager, and my manager was like, yeah, I think we can pull this off. And so he called this contracts lady. Her name was Linda Fairchild. And you probably heard me talk about Linda. And she put together the contract, and he said, go over to her office. And so I drove over to another building, and I walked into her office, and she goes, congratulations, young man. And she handed me the document. And I said, oh, thanks, Linda, so much. And as I grasped the document, she didn't let go. And I said, and she's like, well, what are you going to give me? And I said, well, what do you mean? She's like, I'm like, thank you. She's like, no, you've already said thank you. What are you going to get for this? And I said, well, what do you mean? And she says, well, that's great that you're getting the deal, but you should be getting something else for this. And I said, what do you mean? She's like, well, you just don't give anything away, right? If we're going to give the customer something, they've got to give us something. It's got to be a sale is both sides of the equation should be winning, should be getting something. And I said, all right, what do you mean? She's like, well, you just figure out what you're going to ask for in return to meeting all these expectations. And she says, and as long as you understand and you think that it's of equal value and proportion to what you're giving, then I'm happy, but I'm not going to tell you what that is. And I think so many times as sellers that, we solve real world business problems. We help organizations get to places they can't get on their own. And I think we've got to remember that. And we've got to, if we took the attitude that this is a business deal on both sides, we may approach the deal slightly different. But I think to do that, you got to have a healthy pipeline, right?
Yeah.
So,
boy, I love that. I love that message, PaddyMac. There's two things that resonate for me in that is that pipeline cures all ills. It gives you courage. It gives you it gives you the ability to what I call hold your water in a sales engagement. And then the other thing that Linda shared with you that just really resonates for me is you give, you get.
Yes.
You give, you get. And there's so many people out there right now, including me when I was a younger salesperson, that I thought that if I gave on discounting that I got the deal. Well, that's not where it stopped, because if I got the deal, then they got my solutions. And so that wasn't a good give get. If I give a discount, then I get the deal. And I would always tell, myself, I'm like, give get. I gave the discount, I got the deal. No, that's not what that meant.
No.
And if you don't believe the value of your solutions, then why should anybody else, especially with a professional procurement person? I think Linda's probably given us all advice that can last forever.
Absolutely.
If you don't value what you're giving away, the person that you're giving it to will know that there's more to give.
Absolutely.
And that's a bad deal for us.
Completely.
That's a bad deal for us. PaddyMac, you are an absolute joy, my friend. You are, from the day that you came to Force Management, I love to tell the story of your initial presentation to us and just how badly it was so obvious how badly you wanted to do this and be good at this. And it was so obvious how great you were going to be. And I know the listeners that have experienced you, and I hope that everybody gets a chance to experience you, but you've just been an absolute godsend to us, to me, to Force Management, and I can't thank you enough. So thanks for joining us today, brother. Keep crushing it.
Keep
crushing it, dude.
You have a great day.
You too, buddy. Talk soon.
Bye.